Okay, you guys are going to love it, and really surprisingly not as involved as you would think. I want to go over the colors. So we really just need a basic brown. We need a light pink. If you have it to make that, we can do a red light with water. So use a red or a pink. A purpley, and I'm using these. You choose your own springish flower colors. I have a bright yellow. That's a Hansa Yellow Deep. I'm using Daniel Smith colors. You can use any watercolors that you have. This is a cerulean blue that I'm going to use for my background wash and for some of the flowers. And then I have a purple. And then this is a sap green, one of my favorites for florals. We're going to do some fun loose florals in it as well as the bunny. And I'm using a size 6x6 for my design today. And to cover that space well, I'm going to use an 8 Princeton Neptune round brush. And I'm going to have 2 different smaller sizes, a 6 and a 4. If you're sizing smaller, just size your brushes smaller. And then for some fun details at the end, a white paint marker or some gouache or whatever you have. Guys, I need you to excuse the fact that my hand is wrapped in a brown sock. That was for a short. It's supposed to look like Bunny herself is painting her self-portrait. So just roll with that. Okay, I have a 6x6 size. You can do anything. It's a cool composition to be in a square. You could do it more as a rectangle. I'm taped off the edges so that I'll get some nice crisp white edges. I'm going to do a little background. First, we want to take clean water. I'm using my number 8 brush, so it's a little bit larger to cover some more area. For our larger washes, I'm going to use a larger brush. I want you to have a paper towel nearby and your different size brushes, and let's get clean water and just cover the entire bunny herself. So we're going to do just a good layer of water. We're going to let it dry just for a moment so it's not dripping wet when we start. I'm going to avoid the eye area, the eyeballs themselves, and I'm going to avoid the flowers, and I'm going to avoid the inner ear. So we're doing the whole face, the whole chest, the top here of the ear, and the top of the other ear. So we don't want our initial glaze of the brown to get in there. Guys, I'm just laughing at this. I'm doing the voiceover after. I'm just laughing at how silly this whole like bunny paw little thing was. The things we do for social media. So you're going to see one paw and one non-paw, but whatever. Just roll with it. Don't wash my hands. Just do your thing and enjoy your artwork. Okay, we're letting it dry for a little bit, and we're getting our brown ready. I want you to get a medium amount of pigment on your brush and a dark concentration of this brown, and we're doing it under the chin to do the neck. And then we're going to do the very left and right side of the body, where kind of the arms would be shadowed, the front legs. And then it looks a little silly now, guys, but it is all going to dry lighter. And then let's do sort of a little horseshoe around the mouth and nose. And then I want to leave a little bit of a break between. It's not all connected, just at the top there. So see, we're doing kind of a little horseshoe around. And then I want to do the edges of the cheeks. And this is just a pretty light pass through. We're not going crazy. We're just getting it in there. And for this one, the same thing. I still haven't dipped my brush back in. I'm just going with this brown. Mine was a burnt umber, and mine's raw umber, and we're going just to get this initial layer in. And you can leave some spots, break it up leave a little white here and there. See when I broke up on that top left ear, I wanted it to look a little, some of the beauty of watercolor is having some of that unevenness. Okay, and then a couple of dots above the eyes, just because there's a couple of darker dots I saw on bunnies. And then a little bit of brown under where the flower crown will go. Okay, then what I'd like to do before we let this sit, I am just going in and loosening with some clean water, loosening a little bit of the edge there. So you guys take a little clean water, dab it on your paper towel, and then we're just making it a little bit more dilute there. And then 2 lines down here where we want to just hint that the front legs are. Okay, now one last thing before is let's darken up the corners, the top corners of the ears, and darken up a little of the inside of that circle we did. Just the inside and a little bit around like the bottom of the nose part here. I just added a little bit more pigment before we let it sit, and a little bit more pigment under the flowers because this is a pretty big shadow under there too. Now it looks absolutely ridiculous right now, but trust me, it's going to be good. Okay, the next thing that we want to get going is let's do our loose flowers. Get a light bit of your pink. I want you to have it just super light. And guys, we are just having fun with these. Just make little C strokes if you want a rose in the middle. You decide what the flowers are going to be like. I'm making C strokes and leaving a lot of white between them. And then I'm going to get my light purple and I'm just going to make like a 5-pointed flower. Just throwing in 5 petals there. And then same over here. And this one I might make it a little lighter. I added more water to this one. See, it just varied it up from the one on the right. So this is it, guys. It's going to be super basic, but it's so cute. But super fun. And then for this one, we could add, see what I did? I tapped in a little bit of more pigment to the middle of that purple, and it made it spread out for us. Now, get a little bit of your blue on the tip, on the point of your brush, and just kind of do dots and make it look like a little bit of, I don't know, like a little, not a bluebonnet, but something like that, where it's a cone-shaped wildflower. And then just dot, 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 and then just do it in a little shape. I just did it in a horn shape going on either side. And then I'm grabbing my bright yellow, whatever colors you guys wanted for your florals, and I'm just going to make little circles here. Just hint at that there's some more flowers in there. And just sort of balance it out, the composition. Make the smallest towards the edge. So the flowers go kind of from larger to the center to smaller to the outside to sort of balance it all out. Okay, we're going to let those, we're not going to add too much more to those. We're going to let it dry for a minute. But what we're going to do now is grab a little bit of your green and with some water, we want this to be able to move around for you and go on the tip of your brush, switching down to a smaller because these are more delicate. So switch a size down and then just make a line and just alternate some little leaf dabs. I literally just dabbing it. And I'm going to do a couple coming out from each side and a couple coming out from the top. So a little line for a stalk, a little foliage, and then some green. And then I'll do a couple of larger leaves. You can decide what looks good. And then just a bunch of we're just hinting that this is some sort of foliage on this little crown, this boho bunny. Maybe a larger leaf down here, just in a leaf shape. And we'll dab in some darker green to give it a little variation in a minute. This thing is still cracking me up, this bunny paw. Can't say I didn't sacrifice for the cause. Okay, keep on dabbing that in. And then let's get a couple of just ending little swipes up. A couple of swipes at the edges here, just dots. And then that's really all we're going to do for the flowers. We're going to add a little more detail just for fun. We're going to do a little darker for the rose, and let's dab in a little darker, our same green color, but let's put it at the base of some of the things. The base of our little leaves, and look, we're just dabbing in a little wettish. By wettish, I mean we have water, equal parts water and pigment on our brush with this, but we don't want it washing away. We don't want it super loose. So like wet-ish. So you're having your pigment right now at a stage, people talk about it as tea, milk, cream, and butter, the consistency. So it's the thickness of the pigment within your water, within your brush. And so we want like a medium. This one, let's get the same consistency of water. Now get your darker, if you used a red and lightened it, and we're going to make more C shapes, but just on the inside of some of these. And see, with just that little bit, what we were able to create, kind of a light and dark. Let's do some details on some of the other flowers as well. Let's get just a little darker. You can use, let's even dab in a little purple in the middle of those yellows if you have yellows. Just make a center dot, simple dot for those. And then for our purple ones, we can do maybe a C shape for the centers. Just kind of dab around into a C shape and give it the sense that it's got a center there that's darker. And then this one on the left side, we've kind of made it blend in a little, the wet on wet, because we did that one a lot wetter. So just really cool. Just tapped it in and it did that for us. I love watercolor. I love the way that it's just beautiful. You can do so much. Okay, onto the face. Let's get a really light wash of our brown color, like light. We want it to look tan, and then we're going to fill in the face around the darker that we started with. It's dry enough now. We can even go over the top. It's not going to mess it around too much because it's pretty dry. So go ahead and let's fill in everything. Let's leave a little white towards the bottom, a little space between the neck and the cheeks. But I'm going right over the top and kind of scissoring over everything. I'm leaving the eyes again out. And I'm going to add a little darker to those spots and strengthen. Now she is looking a little angry at that point. So I'm going to take actually a little less of that, but I will add some more here under the crown, and then a little bit on the top. We're just going to deepen a little bit of our areas. And this is really just, it's dry underneath. So we're doing right now a wet on dry technique, which is, it gives us more control. And then let's do a little tiny bit more brown at the tip of the nose and at the edges of at the very top edge of the neck, so we can really make that a little bit deeper brown. See how we're just really using this to create this 3D, like we're giving the bunny form with lights, mediums, and darks. Okay, with our darkest brown, let's go back in a little under here and then spread it down. Spread it downwards with a fairly, it's wet. It's medium wet, so it's going to be able to move, and then we can use the side belly of our brush to sort of create a little fur texture down here. So I think that's really cool. Dry brush technique, kind of rubbing it sideways. We can do that up here too and add a little bit and leave a little bit of the white paper showing. Okay, let's go under the nose and strengthen that a little bit. Okay, so we're ready to put in some of our fun last details. First, let's do a side brush swipe of a real light pink, the same light pink we started the rose with. And then just leave some white between. So we're not going to solidly fill in that ear with all the pink. Just a couple of swipes up towards the top of the ear. And then for this one on the left side, I just put another swipe down by the bottom. And then we can work on some smaller details around the eyes and nose as well. So grab your smallest brush that you're working with, likely a 2 or maybe a 4, and you're going to use it on the point. And let's put in just to the center of the pupils, just fill in with a dark brown. I am using a Payne's gray that I didn't mention at the beginning, or your darkest brown would even work here. that we did for the ears, but just do it really dark. Black is good. Payne's gray or black. Like little almond shapes. They're not circles because the bunny is facing us straight on. They're kind of more almond, straight up shapes. And then let's outline the bottom of the nose. Two simple, really light lines. We don't need a lot here. Very wispy. Just do on the very tip of your brush and just wispy. And then I'm going back here too, and I'm going to add a little bit of brown to the left and right side of the between the nose and mouth. It looks a little weird, but it does add a little bit of dimension in there. It's a little shaded area. Okay, and then finishing out our mouth with some of the Payne's gray. Just finish line. You can put a little smile down there or a little, mine's just going to be kind of deadpan. And then I'm going to soften this a little bit. It's not a mustache, but it's just like a little, it just looks cute. I'm looking at a little reference pic. Perfect. Okay, guys, and you can add a little bit more of the brown to the nose if you like. Okay, and while this is dry down here, let's add one more layer of the brown to deepen the shadow under the neck. So put in a decent amount, it's wet on dry right now, of the brown. And then wet your brush, turn it sideways, and let's drag some of that down, kind of creating a little gradient there. And this will give us one more and final layer of our shadowing. I really like the effect of having kept some of the white in the ears. I think that looks great. Okay, dab into your brown with the tip of your brush, and we are just making little freckle marks where the whiskers are going to come out. And you guys, I want you to get an inky, really watery consistency on the end of your brush, just like dripping off of a really, really light. Practice on a side paper first, and then use your pinky to anchor your brush, and we are going to create some really wispy whiskers. So take a paper on the side, pause it if you have to, and drag some whiskers out to see how they look first. So we're just going to make some, and you don't want a lot. You just want it to be really wispy. This is not easy. So practice this one first before you put it on your thing. You can always get rid of it with water if you want, but it's not easy to make it kind of light. But basically just barely kiss it to the paper. Use your pinky to anchor it if you need to, and make it really inky. So more water than paint. So I'm knocking everything around right now. And I'm just doing just a few on each side. Heading up, and then a few shorter ones going down towards the bottom. Okay, grab your paint marker, and this is the fun part. Make sure that had a little second to dry. You don't go right where you put the black. We'll go into the drier part and do a couple dots. One bigger, one smaller maybe. And then let's put a couple of dots inside the flowers, just here and there, just for fun. Just for fun, wherever it looks like it might be cool. And just adds a little more space to it. And then one cool thing I'd like to do is make a white line between the pink and the brown of the top of the ear. Just to really give that like a cool separated look. I like that. Nice, really accentuate that though. That's a little separate up there. And then I'm going to do a couple little dots on the nose just because I think that looks cute. And then if you want, we can simulate some texture up here in the forehead. Just a couple little lines for fur, like lighter fur up here. Looks okay. I like it. You can do it. This is much more like a book illustration. We're not going for realism here anyway. So do what's cute. This could be a super cute character in a book. We should write a children's book. We'll do the watercolor and then write the books. Guys, I don't know about you, but I'm super excited about how cute she is. We need to name her. She's super adorable. That's all I know. Okay, you guys, let's do a wash around the entire piece. And so I want you guys, it's going a little off camera here, but what I'm doing is watering everything but trying to avoid the whiskers that we worked so hard on. So go between those, and this is just plain water. And I'm getting it everywhere around the bunny. And I am avoiding the bunny. I gave myself a buffer. So none of this paint is going to seep into any of our design. We're keeping it well around the edge. And then for the whiskers, I'm going to go just in carefully and just pull some blue into there. And then what I'm going to do, and you choose the back color, but I thought blue was cute. It's kind of sky blue. You can choose. You could do a yellow. You could do a peach. Any background color you think would be good. And this is just dropping wet into wet. And then we're creating the vignette around the side. Okay, so go ahead and do that on all the corners. We're going to make it kind of a little darker on the corners and just wash a little lighter color in there. And we're on our own for that. And I'm going to come back and kind of show you how mine ended up. And I would love you to post it in our Art Mojo community section so we could see how the different bunny personalities came out. So cute. Okay, you guys do your background, let it dry, and then I'll show you how mine came out.